Chris Miller, welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about you, the person, before we jump into your business and businesses interests.
Ugh.
So take us back before you started one of the fastest growing strata businesses in the country. Tell us about what led you there.
Oh, it's a meandering, complicated story that probably doesn't translate that well to podcasts.
We have 30 minutes.
I'll give you the abridged version. Yeah, I'm Canberra born, Canberra raised. I was just sort of a bit of a bogan to bit. Can I swear, or
Yes.
is that frowned upon?
Yeah, you can.
Well, I'll
I speak it well.
I'll speak it well. Yeah, I was just a fucking no. I was going nowhere, and I was didn't finish school, and I had just fallen into a sort of state of not doing much at all. My old man's a carpenter, and he got the shits with seeing me look like I was going to, be a professional drongo. So he sort of rescued me out of that and made me go and work in carpentry with him. But we had a piss take of a sort of a gig. We did like all of the Grace Brothers stores, they were called in Canberra. You probably know them as Myer. We did the maintenance work for each of them. There's only 3 of them, so it's sort of 3 days a week, 1 day at each store. And no one knew what we were doing there. So I was doing that. Dad was like, he had the head contract, and I was just taking the piss, to be perfectly honest. I hope none of the Grace Brothers executives ever listen to this. But so I was just hiding in plain sight, doing fuck all. But one day Grace Brothers, whatever, got a national contract to do all the maintenance. So we just got a fax one day that said, thanks, this is your last week. You don't have to do anything anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I spun out. I'm like, what am I going to do? This is back in the days when you'd get the newspaper, unfold it and put it on the floor, and I'm circling job ads, and what am I going to do? And one of them must have been a strata management job that I circled, and I went to it. I hadn't got back to the car after the interview where I got the phone call saying, you got the job. I had no idea what a strata manager was, and that was 20-something years ago now, and I don't know. It took me from being fairly rudderless to sort of going, oh yeah, property strata management. It's hard yakka, but it was sort of interesting. I sort of thought it could be a springboard to other things. I think a lot of people in strata think that it's going to be a springboard to other things, but no, it ended up not being a springboard to other things. It was the thing, and yeah, I worked for another business when I started that for, I don't know, it must have been 4 or 5 years. That got acquired by a larger business that the guy who bought that was a pretty smart dude and something of a mentor to me. And I stuck through it there with him until I decided I was going to go and do my own thing. Started Vantage Strata. That was about 12 years ago. I did that was one of 4 business partners. And now down to 2, just myself and my colleague Rupert. But yeah, we started that together as 4 equal partners, and sort of started it with a duck egg and grew it up to be. I handed over to my business partner now, Rupert, who we're 50-50 owners each. I handed over to him, I think, when we were about 15,000 units under management. So yeah, that there's a lot of things to punctuate that story in between that we don't have time for. But yeah, that's the sort of short version.
Is 15,000 units, was that ever on the radar when you first started it from the duck egg?
I just had this arbitrary 10,000.
Right.
For some reason. That sounded like a nice round number.
And when did you hit 10,000?
Yeah, we got past 10,000, must be about 4 years ago or something.
Yeah, right.
Or more, maybe more. Time moves at a strange pace when you start your own business and you drink a bottle and a half of red wine every night just to self-medicate and cope. And yeah, it's like it's moved. It feels like it's the longest 12 years, it was 12 years over 100 years in some measures, but then in other measures it's like,
it's flying.
I can't believe that was 12 years ago.
So things like strata management obviously have been around for a long, long time. You guys come in as a new player to penetrate a market, which has probably got a lot of well-known, players already in that field. What did you feel that perhaps there was a gap there that wasn't being met, or was it just the fact that no, we think we can take a bit of pie here and be sizable? What was the thinking there initially?
Yeah. Oh, look, I think if anyone starts their own business, in a mature industry that doesn't have some version of, I think we can do this better and be disruptive, then they probably don't have any business doing it. If you don't honestly think that,
Yep.
what ends up happening in practice is, actually, there's a reason everyone else who came before us struggles with these things, and it's easier said than done. Then I'm just going to fucking transform the place. But there was a kernel of that in there. I thought we could really do. See, the thing about strata management, anyone who doesn't know what strata is, I'm not going to explain it. Google it. Chat. My mate Claude will tell you all about it. But it's so administrative, and it's evolved in the Australian market to be this really administrative thing, compliance with legislation, administrative, type work, secretarial type work, and it's really become disconnected with the fact that the core of strata management is that there are these buildings there. So the focus should be on buildings. How do buildings function? How do you need to look after them, maintain them? How do they operate? And you would be forgiven for, like not even knowing that there's a building involved for the way the industry has approached strata management. So my disruptive thought was we're going to run a strata business with a much stronger focus and emphasis on the built environment. That's the core.
Yeah, right.
Looking after and maintaining these buildings, not being the best at being able to tell you what the law says about having a cat and how to run a meeting and what the kind of resolution, but starting with there's a building here, we want to know everything that's in it and everything that you need to do to it, and have a plan that you can point to and say, the height safety certificate's due in October and it's going to be done by these people, and we're not going to miss it. We don't have to just remember because I wrote a diary note. We're going to systemize how to do that. And that comes from just a more commercial property approach. So in that short version of my career I mentioned, I failed to mention I had a moment where I stepped away from that and I was in commercial agency. And that was a real eye-opener for me. I'm like, commercial property is very different to how these resi strata buildings operate. And they really are interested in the building.
Yeah.
So that sort of influenced the approach we were going to have to that. And I think, 7 out of 10 achieved.
Which you mentioned, obviously, that the strata is very administrative heavy, right? And I guess, one of the reasons, no surprise if you're coming on, is that you've, built an exceptional team through ASW, which we're incredibly proud of. Prior to that, that team now is probably about 10 years old that you've built there, or very close to it. What was the challenge or the opportunity that you could see back then?
Yeah, I think what we were trying to do, and I don't think it's 10 years old. It's about 6 years, 6 or 7 years.
More than 6, probably close to 8.
Really?
Yeah.
That's that bottle and a half of red wine I was telling you about. Does funny things to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 7 or 8. What we were trying to do was create more capacity for the people that we have, on the ground.
Yep.
And the simple theory was that we're going to just create, process people doing robots.
Yep.
And that was the theory at the time. Probably true to say that a strata manager, the way the industry sort of functions, a strata manager can actually never do their job according to its requirements. They're always underwater,
Right.
It's just this perpetual underwater. So I really wasn't trying to change the world and trying to make superstars. I was actually trying to go, like, if this is what the job requires and this is the capacity that people can get to, I was really just trying to get people to the point they could leave every day with an empty mental briefcase.
Yep.
And take away the really simple basic shit that they might not ever get time to do.
Right.
It's not really what happened in practice, though. What really surprised me ultimately was that the people over in the KL team weren't like it would be doing a disservice to their capability by having them do simple shit.
Yeah.
And actually, we want them doing much more complicated stuff,
Yeah.
And certainly there is a world where they're doing more processy type stuff because some of the skill sets are more processy. Like,
sure.
I'll give you an example. An accountant, by definition, is more processy than someone working in a sales job or something, right? So we were building out the accountancy function, some of the accountancy function there. And so it's fair to say they're doing more processy stuff, but the nature of what they do is more processy.
Yep.
But the big aha was actually that, we got these people that they don't just have to be the smart, capable, human-facing people that are in Canberra and all the boring stuff we're going to ship over there because they're going to do that. That's not actually, that's sort of not the way it's evolved.
How's it evolved?
It's evolved such that actually these guys are good, perfectly capable, client-facing resources, and in some respects, their capability at solving complex problems is just as good, if not better, than a lot of the people here in Canberra. So rather than having and look, it's imperfect. It's still evolving,
Oh, of course.
But from where it started to where it went and where it's going, it's continually sort of changing. But it's not this lane of things happens in Australia and then this totally separate lane of things happens over there. It's actually a bit of lane swerving.
Yeah. Navigating.
Navigate. We're still trying to find how that works best.
Sure.
But and interestingly, I'd be curious to know if you hear this in other businesses. COVID really helped us in a lot of ways because we used to treat the KL team as a secret. Oh, we can't let our clients find out that we're using offshore people. So it was hidden behind the curtain.
Sure.
Don't mention it. Like
don't promote it.
Don't promote it.
Yep.
And if we've got people with that that sound like have not Australian names that I can't pronounce a lot of the time, I certainly don't want them emailing clients. I don't want them going anywhere near our customers because that would be terrible. Well, actually, what happened during COVID was we just sort of had no choice, or don't know what it was that caused that to be exposed, but it did get exposed, and we found in a post-COVID world, the customer is way less concerned about that.
Yeah,
maybe it's just
one of the outcomes.
They were maybe just because everyone was forced down the road of remote working. So now it's not like, oh, these people aren't
in the office,
local and in the office. So I suppose they didn't give a shit about that.
Yep.
Or maybe the world was just going that way anyway.
Yeah, well, it did.
And COVID didn't make a difference. But now it's not we don't need to keep it secret. Like, we're totally open and upfront about it. And in fact, there's no problem saying, oh, no, I'm helping the Strata manager who's having a well-earned break and you're dealing with me this week. The customers are cool with that. And particularly when they've been exposed to just how bloody good these people are.
Yeah, that's right.
If any of the Australian Strata managers are listening, you just turn it off for a minute. These guys are better than the guys in Australia in so many measures. They are. They're more capable at. They're just more competent at sticking to a lane and doing something the way it's meant to be done.
Yep, at a high level.
They don't have the same cowboy. Like, I'm a cowboy. You give me something to do and tell me how to do it. I go, I'll fucking do it the way I know better. These guys don't think they know better.
Yeah.
They don't. They do it the way that it's meant to be done. They're disciplined. If they think they know better, they come and say, we think this could be done better. Would you consider this?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that is a better way of doing it. Now they've changed the way they do it, and now that's the way they do it. But it's just a different, culturally, it's easier to work with that, I think.
What did you start with when you kicked the initial team off? How many staff did you kick off with?
We always had 2.
Yeah, I think it was pretty small, like 2 or 3.
2 Mels.
Yeah.
Amelina and the 2 Amelinas.
And now you've got 20.
I think more than that.
Yeah, maybe 22, I think. Yeah.
20-something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a sizable team.
It is,
and so now your team size locally is
we fired them all. It's all KL. No, we got locally. It's hard to measure against a standard strata business because we've got, as you know, we've got a lot. We've also got a building management function.
Yep.
So a lot of our team are building managers who are who are on site at a building.
Yep.
Or maybe shared between 2 buildings.
Yep.
So you got to adjust for that. We've got about 30 of those guys. Outside of that, I think the total size of the team, including KL, is about 85 or something.
Yeah, it's a sizable business. It's not bad from a duck
KL
egg.
out and you take the building management guys out, and then that's sort of the direct comparison if you're wanting to
50 on the ground.
Standard strata business looks
like. And so I guess this is a pretty open question, but what have been the lessons for you then over that time, building both a local team and an offshore team in parallel from a perspective of establishing team culture? Because I think you guys have got a great team culture. How have yourself and Rupert manufactured that?
Yeah, well, and Rupert and I are very different people. It probably speaks to why we led the business at different times during its sort of different phases. So my way of manufacturing it was I never manufactured anything. I don't do much with a plan, to be honest. I'm just sort of doing stuff. Whereas Rupert is it's methodical. He wants a plan, a spreadsheet, a budget, then go and execute on it, a communication strategy and whatnot. So it's sort of hard to answer that question in a neat, tidy way. The truth is, when I started, maybe just by coincidence or luck or timing or whatever, but it just sort of caught fire very quickly. So I was just trying to keep up with the growth,
right,
and just naturally just
throwing people at it,
stuff.
Yep.
I'm glad that a good positive culture emerged from that.
Yep.
I wish I could tell you it was because I sat down and thought about how to create a particular sort of culture. Whereas now Rupert's there, he's got a much different approach. The approach that you need when a business gets to the size like ours that it does. It's no longer startup selling the sizzle, that startup energy. It's more business as usual and corporate.
Yeah.
And the way that we deal with the culture there, I think really probably the KL team and the offshore team probably suffered from under my leadership for many years, which was not connected enough. Like teams doing things in their various places with the founder touching everything a bit, but not
bringing it together enough.
Bringing of it together. So now Rupert, really has a proper communication strategy and way of bringing the team into the various things that we do. I think that's better. If I can give myself any credit, it's just that I must be such a likable person that I somehow managed to.
Well, you're not.
There was this. Oh, come on! I can see the way you look at me. It was this emergent culture that kind of came very organically.
Yeah.
So it's a long-winded answer. It wasn't manufactured. It was organic.
Yeah.
We had the culture we had was organic. That came from just being lucky with getting good people.
Yeah.
And the KL experience was no different. We got really good people. Like some of the people we've hired in KL and still have in KL. Like Nads, I would have as the senior executive team for any organisation.
Yeah.
In Australia, they'd be lucky to have her.
Yeah, incredible. So then, that's interesting. So then, what myths would you say going into the international team? I know it's going to be hard because you've had a team now for so long, right? But what perhaps some of the perceived barriers that you were considering going into it versus for those who might listen to this and go, well, I've thought about this, but, for you, what were the barriers that you were thinking about versus the outcomes or the realities of that?
Yeah, I don't know that I was thinking that much about barriers to begin with, and this would be my
You're far too optimistic, weren't you?
Well, it's not that I was too optimistic, but I'm a doer, and I'm a bit of a punter, as you know.
Yeah, I got your last horse that didn't win.
I think they've sent it to the dog food factory now. Anyway, that's another story. Yeah, I'm a doer, and I'm prepared to have a punt on something I don't like. I don't know if it's going to work or not. And probably the best advice I've got. Not that this is the question you asked me, but I'll just take the reins on it. The best advice I've got is just go and start small and have a go with a small team. Even if you don't have a plan, if you're not a Rupert with a spreadsheet and a budget and a plan, you can go and do what I did, which is we hired 2 people. I sort of had an idea that they would be helpful, and I knew what I was going to sort of point them to, and just grow it from there. That was what we did with the KL thing. And, for a fairly, if you look at what you hire a fucking receptionist for here.
Yeah.
It's
commercially attractive.
It's commercially.
Well, the risk is low.
The risk is low enough to go and have a crack at it.
Yeah.
So my approach was that if we did that and it didn't work out, no harm, no foul. It turns out it did. I think, the distance of it, the idea wasn't that big of a barrier.
Because they were starting,
Malaysia,
so time zone was the same
time
thing.
zone was more or less the same.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think I went with any preconceived ideas or notions about what the barriers were. I was just ready to leap. I'll tell you what was funny though is that the way that it has succeeded was again more to do with luck than good planning. It actually was. It started out sort of okay. I put a bit of energy into it to begin with, and then the business was still growing, and it wasn't actually firing on all of the pistons that it needed to.
Sure.
You want to be firing on 8 cylinders. We're probably firing on 3 or 4. So it never really was. It just wasn't quite there. But it was enough. It was good enough that it wasn't.
It was delivering value, but not to the extent that it could.
Yeah, it wasn't worth throwing out. And this is no good. I could see enough. This could work. And anyway, then I got distracted. We hired a few more people. I think so. By that stage, we might have had we had a leader over there that just didn't quite work out. Didn't sort of.
Yep.
It was. And I don't know if you remember that at the time, but it was that leadership part just didn't quite work out. It was about then that my energy kind of dipped a bit in it, and I was like, and I had other shit to do, so I just kind of it was there
idling along,
and I ignored it. And my attention, because the business was growing, you can only focus on so many things at once, and when you've got ADD like me,
where's the next deal?
That's harder.
Yeah.
So that was probably. Maybe embarrassingly enough, maybe even a year or two. Could have been, let's call it 18 months of very little attention on these guys and me just going and focusing on other things. And then we came back to it and we were like, fuck, this thing has grown roots and self-organized, and all of the gaps and the things that were maybe not making it fire on all pistons, because culturally they are much more in need of structure and a plan and a discipline. They just went about building it themselves.
How good?
Not with no influence from us, but getting from us what they needed. It was really that's
huge.
Now that's not advice for people. Don't go and start something, leave and come back and see what happens. But that was really interesting to come back and see this garden had flourished and was now
without you watering it,
without us doing much.
Yeah. So then. You mentioned before, you come back, you focus more attention. If you were to do that again, right? So hypothetically, you get a second run at this. You go from the outset, and you'll build. If someone's listening to this, they're going to build a team. What would be a couple of tips that you suggest?
Yeah, I would probably say one of the things that has hampered us the most was not so much unclarity of purpose. Although, I mean, like, if I'm being honest, that would probably be better if you had a bit more of a clear plan about, but dysfunction of systems and platform. Like, how are two people going to work together? It sounds pretty boring and low level, but it's actually super important. Are we going to just share an inbox and pass emails back and forth to one another, or are we going to have a collaboration tool? I'd spend more time investing in what is the platform of collaboration and how does that look from a technology piece.
Yep.
I'd spend more time on that than I probably would on exactly what are these people going to do.
Sure.
Because what they will do and how and the things that they are going to be good at and where they add value, that will probably emerge more naturally. But if you don't have a really clear way of visibly collaborating with your teams in whatever remote location they are, it's just a real impediment to that natural value starting to come through. And again, it sounds dumb and boring, but we've got we're still struggling with it now. And the original sin of not having that worked out well, still haunts us. So you'll have some strata managers and teams that use their KL guys, but the strata manager wants to control a lot of it and they keep it to themselves.
The bottleneck.
Yeah, others where they're more open. But there's no way for us as management to see that.
Sure.
Because we just send emails back and forth to one another rather than having a whatever it is, Smartsheet,
visibility.com,
task management solution. Yeah, that's probably the thing that I wish I had executed on better, because I think we'd be getting much more value and would have gotten more value along the way.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so I guess then if you're, again, taking it back, set clear expectations of what you're trying to achieve out of it before you go into it. I think that so you can measure it, the outcomes. You mentioned before, and I like the analogy, you kind of wanted your senior managers to go home with an empty briefcase. Come to work, get your work done, go home, switch off, repeat. When you've built that international team, do you think that what's been the outcome for those local guys? Do you think that's delivered on that expectation? Do you think that what has it meant for your local senior people?
Yeah, look, it's to be perfectly fair, it's a work in progress still. You know, like it's not. I don't think we've quite achieved that state. In fact, I think the more I look at it, the more it's the commercial model for the business that we're in is just so ill-conceived and so dysfunctional that it's impossible to actually do all of the things that you need to do in the time that you've got to do it. What I think we've got is a much more robust business from institutionally, we've got a much better business. I still think individual strata managers are really struggling with going home with an empty mental briefcase.
Oh, no doubt.
But there are things that are happening in our business that are being managed and properly done that just wouldn't be done in other businesses, but they're latent, so no one knows. So I'll give you an example. I don't know, good financial stewardship of making sure you go through your accounts and make sure that the payments weren't paid from the wrong building and, that sort of stuff that's happening in our business. May not be happening in another smaller business that doesn't have those teams, but it might not be impacting the strata manager's day-to-day life because it just goes unnoticed and the clients don't pick up on every one of those things. So it doesn't mean that there's not a problem there. It doesn't mean that our business isn't better because we've got far more capacity to do these things, these best practice things. But, it's not measurable in the outcome of a strata manager who says, I'm way less stressed. Does that make sense?
It does.
There's latent things that our industry, latent problems in our industry that no one, including the client, never even knows. It's never a problem. Well, just because a fire didn't break out and kill everyone in the building doesn't mean that there's no problem with your fire compliance and making sure you're
I think perfect would be unrealistic as an expectation from a benchmark perspective, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So then, a question I like to ask, and it's been unique for you guys. You've obviously grown to a business, as you said, about 85 globally, we'll say. I imagine over that time there's been ramp-up phases, steady plateaus and what have you. You're now at 15,000 units. What's next for you guys?
18,000.
18,000.
15,000 when I handed it over.
My apologies.
Rupert, he's added
apologies.
It,
So 18,000.
Sprinkled a few on the top.
What's the next? What's it look like for you guys moving forward?
Oh, look, I think we're pretty happy where we are, to be honest. So we did this big grow. You grow and you build out infrastructure as you're growing because you see the growth coming and, like that was the journey we've been on for 11, 12 years. But the size of business that we are now is a good, healthy business. We've grown into, we've filled up the infrastructure with the business. So to then go beyond that is an active decision to go, we're going to extend. It's like putting a new extension on the house, you get, we're all going to have to, piss in a bucket in the backyard for the next 6 months because there's no bathroom and you got to go through that disruption. We don't want that anymore. We're comfortable. We're living in the space that we've got and we're going to optimize that.
What's a question that we haven't asked you today that you think would be valuable for people who might be listening?
Questions around culture and, investing the time to understand the cultural differences.
Yep.
I think that is important. We made foolish mistakes along the way.
Yep.
I was really proud every year. I'd give nice gifts to the team at the end of the year. And I'm like, it turns out a lot of people in Malaysia aren't that interested in the Christmas ham and a bottle of wine because they don't drink booze or eat pork. So, knowing that sort of stuff helps.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
And it really helps to go and be there.
Totally.
Don't undersell the value of spending 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, especially in the early days when you're kicking it off.
Mate, Thank you so much. Huge value. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good man.